Thank you, High Commissioner, for that introduction. And can I say, Professor Doreen and your amazing team, thanks for the incredible inspiration. It's such a pleasure to be here with you, and again, just amazed by all that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, private sector, civil society, I am absolutely delighted to be here and to offer some opening remarks. It's particularly noteworthy that we're here in Singapore, where the Orange Movement started, but also a country which has made significant progress in gender equality. In fact, it has one of the lowest levels of gender inequality in the world, and of course a hub for business and finance. So I was coming up the stairs, I saw the single point of access to all of Asia. So what an incredible place to be talking about this incredible movement. As I was preparing my remarks, I was thinking of another woman who has inspired me. And her name is Mary. Mary's from a remote part of Papua New Guinea. She was a single mum and she was broke. She needed to get funding desperately to pay her school fees for her 3 children. So Mary borrowed some money from her brother and bought some vegetables and started a little stand at the local market. And she did pretty well. She was a pretty savvy businesswoman. And so when she got a little more money, she decided to lend it out for a bit of interest to people in her community who needed funds. She finally saved enough money to buy a taxi, to become a taxi driver. And this started to fuel quite a successful little business, which paid her school fees and other expenses that she needed. But unfortunately, one night, her husband decided to borrow the taxi, took it out, went drinking, crashed it, and that was the end of her little business. After also experiencing some domestic violence at home, she took her kids and she moved back to another community where her parents were, and she started over. But luckily this time, she was able to access a microfinance loan. She started a little shop in her community, and one thing led to another. That shop was thriving. She was able to hire a few other women. She decided to buy only from local female growers in the region, supporting them. And I met her because we worked together with her to provide some agricultural extension to those community women so that they could adapt to the weather changes and drought that was in the region. So you can see the impact this one woman had. And I can tell you so many other stories, as can many in this room. In my role, I've traveled all around the world and I've spoken to thousands of women about what they need for business. And there's some common themes here. They all say, we need more time. We know that women have a disproportional care burden. They always say they need a safe environment. Safety from physical harm, safety from mental harm, and safety from health risks. For example, access to clean toilets in a market can be a huge problem. They need resilience and adaptation skills to counter the rapidly changing climate. And this is always a request, they need finance. It's these later 2 issues where the Orange Movement comes in. Increasing innovative financing for women's economic empowerment and effective climate action. And as Professor Doreen says, and I quote many times, you cannot have green without orange. You just can't do it. How are we going to address climate change if we don't pay attention to the fact that women and girls are disproportionately affected? But at the same time and the same breath, they disproportionately, in a positive way, bring solutions. How are we going to address climate change, one of the most stickiest, pressing problems facing all of us, if we don't tap into 100% of the brain power? How are we going to address climate change if we don't bring the lived experience of women like Mary, who think about things differently than men? She's thinking about her children. She's thinking about her environment. She's thinking about the other women in her community and what they need to adapt to climate change. So again, we cannot have green without orange. Since launching in 2022, Many partners and supporters worldwide have joined the Orange Movement, and I'm proud to say, so has the Australian government. Indeed, through DFAT, my department, we've been a long-standing partner of the Impact Investment Change since their pioneering first women's livelihood bond issued in 2017. Now, as the next bond will be launched soon, and as a certified orange bond, the impact speaks for itself. To date, $374 million has been capital has been mobilized, 2.7 million lives impacted in 48 countries over 6 continents. That's a pretty big wow. And this finance is directly reaching and empowering women like Mary in emerging markets with access to sustainable livelihoods, benefiting them, their families, and their communities. All this is to say that Australia is keenly aware of the importance of innovative financial approaches, as you've heard from our High Commissioner, to support gender equality and climate action, which are key policy focuses across our development cooperation program. We aim for our dollars to have outside influence in catalyzing ambitious ideas into practical realities. And often, as with this Orange Bond initiative, this involves supporting the nuts and bolts infrastructure behind the scenes, including, and really importantly, developing transparency and verification protocols and training to roll out and implement these. This is very important work. But more generally, the work we're doing on gender equality, mobilizing more capital, it's essential. Because gender equality, it is the right thing to do. Every single person deserves every single opportunity to reach their full potential. But equally important, it is absolutely the smart thing to do, because there's no way we're going to have happy families if they're full of violence or if they can't access full income opportunities, or safe communities, or thriving businesses, or addressing peace, conflict and securing peace, or, as I mentioned, addressing climate change. We cannot do this if we leave half of the world behind. However, gender equality is in a bit of trouble at the moment. There's not one country in the world, not yours, not mine, not one country in the world that's on track to meet the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. During COVID, we were not completely off track, with hundreds of millions of women falling into poverty, taking on the care burden, and being subjected to increase in domestic violence and community violence. If that doesn't make it hard enough, as I said before, women are disproportionately affected by climate change, which gets worse every year. And 15% of the women in this world are living within 50 kilometers of an active conflict. That's more than since the Second World War. So it's making it harder to get back on track after we were completely knocked off during COVID. And if that's not hard enough, we are facing active, targeted, well-financed pushback from a range of actors that are undermining rules-based international order and targeting gender equality as some funny Western norm that's, something we shouldn't support. And we see that across the system. And of course, this is wrong because, as we know, gender equality is both the right thing to do and the smart thing to do. So I have to say that it's initiatives like these that can give us hope. The green and social sustainable bonds market, which is growing rapidly, issuances crossed the $1 trillion mark in 2021. This is hope for our future, and we need to continue to work together and pull all of our levers, including in sustainable finance, to get gender equality back on track and to keep it there. So after the forum today, I hope you will be inspired to support the Orange Movement to take gender lens investing to new heights. I certainly look forward to our discussions that will inspire and galvanize our collected efforts to create a finance system that enables everyone, women and men, in all our diversity, to reach their full potential and to contribute to shared economic prosperity on a livable planet. Thank you.